This was one of the most utterly terrifying experiences I've ever had. Nothing will ever come close. And I sincerely hope nobody should ever have to witness and feel these emotions I had to endure on that said night. You may think it was a cliche night, a dark and stormy night. No. This was once a quiet and slightly muggy due to the summer heat. Living in America, good weather, but when it gets a bit too hot, ugh. But, as I said, it was once a quiet night, because I was watching TV and trying to cool down. However, my husky wouldn't stop barking. Since he barks at nearly anything, even a small grasshopper, I took no notice to his loud barks, so I turned on the TV and lied back in my seat. After around 10 minutes of me getting bored, I switched to the news as a last resort of entertainment. I saw countless reports of my local news station saying that a serial killer who has murdered around 16 victims has slipped away from the police yet again and is on the loose. This unnerved me slightly, and I began to get paranoid, very quickly looking around. But I calmed myself down as I overheard the TV describe his predicted whereabouts, and they were miles away. I sat back down and took a deep breath as I turned off the TV, and began to get comfortable again in my seat. A few seconds passed and I realised no barking. I realised the poor thing must have tired himself out and gone to sleep outside. I decided to check on him, and I wanted him to be inside, especially with the thought of a madman running on the loose. I used the light on my phone to see where he was whilst calling out his name. Charmer! Here, boy! Yes, my dog is called Charmer. And yes, looking back at it now, I see calling out was a dick move for everyone else in my neighbourhood, considering how late it was, and it could result in a murderer hearing me. However, that didn't matter, as I saw the lifeless corpse of my poor dog slashed open, surrounded by a fresh pool of blood. I was sickened, and felt such hurt and anger as my once beautiful and loved companion was now dead. I had a pretty good idea who had done this, and I heard rattling coming from behind me in my shed. A cold chill ran straight down my spine as that fear turned to anger, as I wanted to catch this fucker and bring him to justice. What I did next, I now see as stupid, blind fury over a heroic quest of action, really. I ran straight into the kitchen and grabbed the largest and sharpest knife I was best holding with only one hand. I felt a sense of accomplishment as my fencing skills could now be tested. I overcame this childhood fort and stealthily walked over to my small shed. It was pitch black, and I could only see a silhouetted person. The figure still didn't notice me, and I needed light to make some sort of precise attack on his leg so he wouldn't be able to escape, and that I wouldn't kill him. Times like this, I wish I had a gun. I gathered my thoughts with a deep inhalation, and lunged with the light into the entrance. However, the man, with cat-like reflexes, knocked me back, leaving me facing this killer. I should have known he'd be stronger, faster, and smarter than me. My phone, facing down, exposed the 6'2" man as he emerged from the shed. I tried to move, but my gaze and fear left me paralyzed. He was wearing a dirty, blooded hockey mask. His clothes consisted of military fatigues with dark camouflaged patterns. I could feel the cold tears streamed down my face as the man was now looming over me. His eyes were pure black. His stare fell into mine as he revealed my chainsaw and revved it excitedly, as I could now hear the man roar with laughter. My life began to flash before my eyes as I knew these were going to be my final moments. Until I realised my knife was in my hand, so I quickly threw the knife into his leg. He screamed out in pain as I sprinted towards my neighbour's house. I knocked viciously on the door until it surprisingly opened. At this point, fear and adrenaline overcame my body, so I pelted into the living room, where I did find the nice old couple that resided at the house. But unfortunately, they weren't alive. Both being brutally murdered in a struggle, as I saw many handprints and scratch marks that were clearly visible on the once beautiful furnishing they possessed. I heard what seemed to be galloping towards the house, and my heart stopped. I decided to try running up the stairs, but it was by the door. It was my only place to hide, so I took the gamble and I raced up the stairs until halfway up I felt the cold, bare hands with sharp, long fingernails digging into my ankle. "Oh no you don't!" the man exclaimed before he punched me with his bare fist, knocking me out cold. I awoke only minutes later with no shirt and restraints on my arms and legs. I began to scream my lungs out. Only seconds passed until I saw the man once again emerge with my knife in his large hands. He screamed out, "Shut up!" He slashed the blade across my face and plunged it into my shoulder. I wailed out, crying and begging for mercy, looking up at the humongous man. He looked at me again and said, "Time to die, little man," as he raised the chainsaw. Another man ran into the room. The killer noticed my eyes shift towards him. In an instant, the other man shot the killer in the center of the head, killing him instantly. This man, who had just saved my life, happened to be a police officer who rushed me out of the house and down the stairs. I don't really remember this part as well. I was told by the doctors and police officers that I wouldn't stop crying and screaming inaudible speech. This was the most terrifying experience I've ever had, like I said. If it wasn't for that police officer, I would be dead. Plain and simple. That's what life is. And on that fateful night, I may have lost my best friend. But I'm happy that I lived to tell this tale. And I am happy that I can finally live my life. And to make this an even happier ending, I now have 2 puppies. One called Charmer Jr. and one called Faith.